Hi guys, this is Hirosaki. This story is all about what if Naruto was the Dark Phoenix of Konoha. Naruto has a big secret, he isn't the dead last he appears to be. But why would he show that before he is ready to deal with the stones the council loves placing in his way? The Sandaime, having opened his eyes, will do his best to make sure that Konoha will retain the will of fire. Before we start, kindly like and subscribe to this channel and look over the description box for the author of this amazing storyline. Welcome aboard. Chapter 32, Invasion. Feathers fell down onto the arena. The three members of Team 7 nodded towards each other. Sasuke and Sakura had replenished their energy with the seals again and were fully charged to fight against the attackers. They saw that in the cage booth a smoke bomb went off, but they knew that their sensei and the Sandaime would be more than up to fighting any opponent. Naruto took charge and they quickly tore through any ninja that bore a Suna or Oto forward protector. Sakura, head over to the VIP lounge and make sure that none of the guests there is injured. We'll also direct any injured over there for treatment. Sasuke, you take command of the other genin here. We need to secure certain locations in the village, most prominently the academy, the hospital, and the routes to the shelters. We can only properly strike back at the invading forces once the civilians are safe. Naruto recited their orders. Understood, Sasuke replied and collected Shino, Shikamaru, Koji, Kiba, Ino, and Hinata. Those of them that had fought had their injuries treated by now. Thankfully none of them was in really bad shape. We're going to help out securing important locations. Team 10, you'll cover the hospital and follow the orders of whichever superior ninja is in charge there. Team 8, you're with me to cover the academy and the routes to the shelters. We need to get all civilians to safety as quickly as possible. Sasuke repeated Naruto's orders and handed out jobs. Naruto was already gone from the arena, off to the village to do his part. Sasuke knew that Naruto was part of a small group of people that had to take as many opponents as possible. He had seen him rush off with Tenten Jaconato, a student of Gaimato, his sensei's self-declared eternal rival. The girl was great with thrown weapons and from what he knew, that was the perfect combination with the one jutsu that Naruto knew and that had made his father famous. The Flying Thunder God. Naruto and Tenten raced over the roofs of the village. They had practiced for 2 hours each day over the last week to get their combination attacks perfected. Naruto had taught Tenten the Shadow Clone Jutsu and given her a fully charged chakra storage seal to pull 2 clones off. Each clone of her had a scroll with Naruto's special kunaus. Death would rain onto the attackers from above. For now they would concentrate on groups of attackers that weren't in close proximity to any civilians. While Konoha had started evacuating the civilians as soon as the finals had started in secret, they couldn't make it obvious. So they had concentrated on areas that weren't that important, but housed a lot of people. Targets in reach in 10 seconds, Naruto said, using his sensor abilities to estimate the distance. Roger, the original Tenten replied. Ready to fire. The 2 clones jumped to the sides and went looking for their own groups with 2 Naruto clones each to repeat the attacks. Once they were close enough, Tenten unsealed the kunao from the scroll she had been given and started firing them at the enemies. Naruto vanished in a yellow flash and below Tenten the opponents started falling like flies within seconds. She had read about this jutsu's devastating power, but seeing it used in front of her was something entirely else. Naruto flashed back to the roof once he had killed the last attacker. He made 2 clones to collect his kunao for another use. They would deliver the filled scroll once they were done sealing them all up again. Target destroyed. Let's move on, Tenten, Naruto said. She nodded and they continued their job. Orochimaru had kidnapped the Sandaime Hokage and now shed his disguise as the Kaze Cage. Kimimaro had managed to distract Kakashi, so that he hadn't followed them. His elite guard, the Sound 4, erected a barrier to keep all opponents out. Sadly they were not fast enough to get it up before Jiraiya, who had been closest to the cage box, entered. "Oh, isn't it a nice team reunion?" Orochimaru asked, silently cursing. With both his sensei and Jiraiya as his opponents, he would be hard-pressed to win. But he had a trump card. He would just have to call back up. "We are just missing Tsunade, then we would be complete. Today this will end, Orochimaru. Today I will correct my old mistake," the Sandaime said. Jiraiya looked around and inspected the construction of the barrier. The only way would be to take out the pillars, the 4 ninja that held the barrier. Sadly, without somebody of Tsunade's strength, it would be hard to destroy the roof to make them lose their hold. But he had a jutsu that would have a similar effect, even if not on her scale. "Sensei, can you occupy him for a while? I will take care of the 4 that hold the barrier," Jiraiya said. "Hurry up, Jiraiya," the twice-retired Hokage replied. "I am sure he has some nasty surprises planned." "Of course, Sensei," Jiraiya confirmed and ran towards the corner where the guy with the 6 arms sat holding the barrier. "Oh no, you don't, Jiraiya!" Orochimaru shouted, knowing that if Jiraiya wanted to destroy the barrier, he would find a way. "Your fight is with me, Orochimaru," the Sandaime Hokage exclaimed and went through hand seals. "Earth release, mud flow river," he called out and unleashed a stream of mud from his mouth. Orochimaru dodged the mud and countered the jutsu. "Earth release, earth encampment wall," he said, and created a wall of earth to deflect his sensei's jutsu. Jiraiya had reached the corner and concentrated chakra in his right hand. Soon he had a spinning ball and rammed it directly under the inner side of the barrier. "Raise non!" he shouted. His attack took out a good part of the roof, and the one holding the jutsu was head-pressed to keep the barrier up, but he managed. Under him was now an opening, which Jiraiya immediately used. Summoning jutsu. A green toad his height appeared. "Hello, Gamakiri. Ready to show this upstart that works for Orochimaru how stupid that decision was?" Jiraiya asked the female toad. "Oh, Jiraiya, you always have such a way with words," she answered, chuckling. "Combination jutsu, toad water bullet," he stated, and combined his chakra with that of Gamakiri. The water from Gamakiri shot with enormous force into the hole Jiraiya had made with the raise non and took out any tiles from the roof that were still whole. The water additionally forced the 6-armed guy to lose his balance and let the jutsu go. The whole barrier fell down, and the Umbu that waited outside and the Godame Hokage, who had killed Kimimaro quicker than Orochimaru had expected, attacked. The Sound 4 now involved the Umbu in fights, activating the 2nd level of their curse seals. Orochimaru was furious that his plan didn't work just because of that baka Jiraiya. He flew through a series of hand seals to get one last attempt for victory. Impure World Resurrection Jutsu. He called out, and coffins began to rise with numbers on them. The Sandaime flew through his own hand seals to prevent them all from coming out. Shadow Shuriken Jutsu. He exclaimed and shot a barrage of shuriken at Orochimaru. The coffin with the kanji for 4th was kept down, the first 2 were opening. Jiraiya went back to his sensei's side and Kakashi landed next to them. "This is looking bad, sensei," Jiraiya commented. "Not as bad as it could have been. I managed to prevent the 3rd one. And with the barrier down, backup can help us when they have dealt with his guards," the Hokage commented. Then they saw massive snakes destroying the village walls in the east. "Now, don't you think you are needed out there, Jiraiya?" Orochimaru sneered. "Nah, I can leave that part to my godson," Jiraiya confidently replied. "Your godson?" Orochimaru asked, surprised. "Yes, I think you know of him. Messy, spiky blonde hair, blue eyes, whisker marks on his cheeks, and a talent and determination I only saw in his father before," Jiraiya commented. "So, the fool that sacrificed his life made you godfather of his son. He must have been desperate to make a pervert like you godfather of his only son," Orochimaru mocked Jiraiya. Better a pervert than a pedophile, Jiraiya mocked back. You really think I wouldn't have prepared for anybody interfering with my plans? My men are already catching him and Sasuke. Once Konoha is destroyed, I will mark Sasuke and turn Naruto to serve only me. Jiraiya started laughing with Kakashi chuckling along. I hope you weren't overly fond of the men you sent after them. You won't see them again, Kakashi said. Those two will take out any opponent that they encounter, he stated completely serious. As if Naruto wanted to prove Jiraiya and Kakashi right, a giant toad appeared directly where the snakes were. You said something, Orokai team? Jiraiya asked smugly. You will still not win against me, Orochimaru said, and rammed Konoha with controlling formulas into the necks of the Shodai and Nidaime Hokage which he had resurrected. After having taken out 6 groups of enemies with the 3 groups of them, Naruto and Tenten had reached the outer wall of the village. They then were surprised by a giant snake tearing the wall down. Shit, that thing is huge. Tenten exclaimed after having jumped out of the way of falling wood and stone from the wall. A summons. Orochimaru must have left a sealing formula somewhere to get the snake here. There are 3 ways of dealing with it. One is taking out all summoners, the second destroying the sealing formula, Naruto explained. And the third? Tenten asked. This one, summoning jutsu. Naruto exclaimed. Under Naruto appeared a giant blue toad with a shield and a club in its webbed hands. Naruto? What is the matter? The toad asked. Gamma Hero, I need your assistance dealing with that summoned snake. We need to prevent that it kills our ninjas, Naruto explained. No problem, Gamma Hero responded and lashed out with his club. Tenten watched in awe how Naruto and his toad partner dealt with the snake. The snake tried biting the toad, but it deflected with the shield. Then Naruto was somehow on top of the snake's head and landed a hit with a Rasengan, which made the snake disappear. Thank you for your assistance, Gamma Hero, Naruto called out. I need to go on, there are still too many enemies and soon the full-out counter-strike will be launched. It was my pleasure, Naruto, call me whenever you need me again, Gamma Hero replied and went back to the Toad summoning realm in a cloud of smoke. Naruto landed on the ground easily. He and Tenten then continued taking out enemies that tried getting through the hole in the wall, only to find out that a weapons mistress with incredible aim that spread flying thunder god Konoha and the son of the Yellow Flash, who could use said jutsu perfectly, were deadly opponents. Sasuke and Team 8 were fighting off a handful of Suna ninjas that had targeted the academy. They covered the backs of the evacuating academy students and their teachers. The Chunin teachers would be able to protect the children on the way to the shelters as long as they could buy them time. Shino unleashed his bugs on the Suna ninjas. Kiba and Akamaru used their double drilling fang technique to tear into the enemies, and Hinata practically danced around the attacks of the enemies and landed her own whenever there was an opening. All of them had got some chakra storage seals, all prepared before the invasion by Dark Phoenix and given to the chosen team captains on orders of the Hokage. Sasuke had handed them out just before they had split from Team 10. Now all the genin were at full reserves chakra-wise and could fight at their best. Sasuke shot a fireball at his opponent and followed it up immediately by running after the fireball, using the cover it offered hit to close the distance and get a deadly hit in by stabbing the Suna ninja into the heart. As there were only 4 opponents, they were soon done and continued to their next location. Sasuke gave orders about directions and they were off again. As long as their opponents were at genin or chunin level, they would be able to take them on. That much they knew. Shikamaru had bound 8 attacking Oto ninjas and it allowed Koji and 2 other chunins that protected the hospital to take them out. Ino supported them by throwing poisoned senbons on her opponents from a safe distance. Her taijutsu wasn't strong enough to go up against chunin or higher level ninjas, so she did what would be successful. And having to shield against poisoned needles while other attacks also were used against them was not easy. The main problem was that there were lots of attackers. much more than they were. While they had already taken out about 20 enemies, there were still about 30 left and they were hard-pressed to defend the hospital. And this was only their side. The other sides were also under attack and the other ninjas entrusted with the duty to protect the hospital were also in full fight. Then suddenly a high number of kunai rained down between the ninjas. Then there were yellow flashes and the ninjas fell quickly. Wow, that were a lot at one time, they all heard a voice from above. They looked up and saw Naruto and a brown-haired girl with twin buns on her head standing on the roof. Perfect aim as always, Tenten, Naruto complimented. Thanks, Naruto. But you're doing the bigger part of the work here, Tenten replied. Hey, without your incredible aim this would be impossible and you know it, Naruto gave back. We've cleared the area for now, but stay on guard for more attacking. Thanks for the help, Naruto, Koji called out and the blonde waved only to race off with Tenten, just leaving a clone behind that collected the kunai. I can't believe it, he knows the flying thunder god jutsu, one of the Chunin exclaimed once he got over his astonishment. Just like the yondaime. Well, he is his son, isn't he? Ino asked. Yes, but that jutsu was thought to be lost when Yondaime-sama died. To think that Naruto has perfected it with 13, it's incredible, the second Chunin pointed out. The members of Team 10 understood, but they were used to Naruto performing in a league of his own by now. They had gone up against him in countless training sessions and knew that you could never underestimate him. They saw the signal from the Hokage monument. The evacuation was complete now. They could strike back without holding back. The group of three nodded at each other. It was time to show why they were Konoha ninjas. Soon they encountered a group of 5 Oto ninjas. Ice release. 1,000 flying ice needles, one of them exclaimed and let ice needles shoot at the group from all sides. Steel release, blade forest. The second one shouted and razor-sharp steel blades grew from the ground, spearing those that hadn't been hit by the needles. Only one of the 5 was still alive after the 2 had performed their attacks. But he felt his breath being taken away after the third one touched his throat. Poison touch, toxic breath, she said calmly. He didn't live long after that. We're done with this group, Haku, the steel release user said. Good, Sani. Kimi, we need a distraction for the next group in the next street. Can you release your poisonous mist? Haku asked. Sure thing, Haku. They'll find out why we're now valued special Jonin of Konoha, Kimi answered. The 3 former accomplices of Zabuza had, after a few weeks of interrogation and negotiations with the Sandaime Hokage, decided to settle down in Konoha. They had gone through probationary periods of 3 months each and had then been put into Konoha's ranks. Haku was working part-time at the hospital thanks to his medical knowledge and was trained to get his license as a full medic nin. Sani had performed some missions with several Konoha teams of mostly B-rank level and Kimi was now part of the torture and interrogation department and had found a friend for life in Anko Mitarashi, her partner there. Both were real sadists and loved causing pain to their victims. As Konoha offered them many boons if they agreed to join the village, protection from persecution by Kiri and the chance to rebuild their clans in Konoha among them, they had decided to fully embrace their new village's ideals. And having people around you that didn't hate you for your bloodline limit was really nice after having to deal with being hated for how you were born for years. Jiraiya had managed to trap the Shodai Hokage in his swamp of the underworld jutsu and was now destroying his head with a raise-non to get the control formula out. He had the impression the Shodai smiled before he was sent back to the afterlife. Kakashi was similarly successful with the Nidaime. He countered the water release with his lightning release and his Sharingan abilities. Even the infinite darkness techniques was dispelled by the eye's ability to see through genjutsu. But it was still a hard fight. The Nidaime was incredibly strong and Kakashi had to be on guard all the time to keep up with him. Thankfully he had a massively larger jutsu repertoire than the resurrected Nidame, and he managed to break through his defense to follow Jiraiya's example to attack the head. A Chidori destroyed the control formula. The jutsu broke and the body of one of the Oto Genin from the Chunin exams was revealed. The Sandaime, while fighting with Inma in his adamantine staff form, was giving Orochimaru a hard time. He had attacked again and again, but had failed so far. None of his attacks with Kusanagi got through. His sensei was astonishingly good in form. "You seem to be in good form still, sensei," he commented. "Well, when you know about an invasion for a month you have enough time to prepare," the Sandaime answered. "So you knew and didn't do anything to stop me? How arrogant!" Mentally he shouted in rage. How could the old fool have known his plans? "Oh, don't wonder about our information. When we knew you were after Sasuke after your fight with Anko, we prepared for the worst-case scenario. We watched your little spy, Kabuto, and found out that Suna was conspiring with you. So we just had to make sure your ace, Gaara, wouldn't be any danger to us. Didn't Naruto do a fantastic job? So you knew about Kabuto. How?" Orochimaru asked while trying to overpower his sensei. This didn't look good for him. The Sound Four were dead or knocked out, the two summoned Hokage taken out, and now he had to face both his sensei, Kakashi, and his old teammate. You can thank Naruto for that. He was suspicious about Kabuto when he showed information about the genin in the exams. He just couldn't explain how somebody would try to take the exams 7 times in a row and not be promoted. Not to mention that he freely gave information up. He informed me and Ibiki of his suspicion, and we kept an eye on Kabuto. We didn't take him out as he was useful for us to watch, and it would have tipped you off. This way we had the chance to trap you. You won't escape this time," the Sandaime said. Jiraiya appeared and attacked Orochimaru with a hair needle barrage. Kakashi followed with a Raikiri and the Sandaime with a flurry of attacks with his bow staff. Together they got some good hits into the defense. The Umbu shot elemental attacks at Orochimaru and he knew he had to somehow flee. He got hit by a fire jutsu from Jiraiya and his right arm was completely burned. Orochimaru hissed in pain. But what he saw next was much more worrisome. Jiraiya powered up a new Rasengan while his sensei's fingers were glowing and they were just centimeters from his stomach. 5 elements seal. The Hokage shouted and rammed his hand into Orochimaru's stomach. The loss of his chakra was enough to stop Orochimaru from using his skin-shedding jutsu. Jiraiya's Rasengan hit his stomach perfectly. Orochimaru, the so-called genius of the Sun, died by the hands of this old sensei and his teammate whom he had thought to be an idiot all his life. Chapter 33, Aftermath. Konoha had been hit hard, but not as hard as it could have been. The precautions that had been set up before the Chunin exam finals had started had taken out a lot of opposition before it could reach the village. The lightning wire trap field around the village had only been overcome in the area where the snake summons had broken through. And as 3/5 of the area had been trapped like that, over 300 attackers hadn't even reached the village walls. Those that had been inside the walls had managed to disguise themselves perfectly as normal guests. Estimations were that Suna and Oto had sent about 600 to 700 ninjas to attack. The plan had been to unleash the Ichibai on Konoha to cause as much destruction as possible and kill as many of Konoha's ninja force as he could. But with Naruto taking out Gaara in his fight, that trump card had been stopped before it could be played. Some important persons had been taken prisoner, like the other 2 children of the Yondaime Kaze cage. They would see what they did with them in the following weeks. Right now Konoha was in a very strong position. The attack had been soundly pushed back and with little loss on Konoha's side. The ones most talked about were Naruto, Namikaze and Tenten, who had been leading in getting rid of the ninjas that had managed to infiltrate the village or avoid the trap fields. Next to them the performance of many other clan heirs, especially Sasuke Uchiha, were discussed openly with admiration. While the evacuation of the civilians had been started way before the invasion was started, there had been some who had seen which people protected the village where. And the ninjas that had survived the invasion were telling others who had performed especially well. The T&I department was overfilled right now with prisoners to interrogate. Anko and Kimi were very happy about that and went to work enthusiastically. The villagers had also caught a few glimpses of the mysterious Seal Master Dark Phoenix when Umbu inspected areas where the damage had been largest. Supposedly he was tasked to find ways to secure those areas better in the future. Nobody could make assumptions who Dark Phoenix was. He was clad in dark gray clothes with a mask like the Hokage to hide the lower part of his face and a hood that concealed his hair completely. And nobody ever got close enough to see more. The Hokage meanwhile had put the village under lockdown for 2 weeks to take care of the most serious issues right away. There would also be a new policy for entrance into the village. Many grumbled about the additional hassle, but the ninjas could see the benefit of knowing exactly who got close to the village. That part had been in work for a long time, and only the fact that the current surveillance seal barrier was very complicated and Jiraiya had taken a lot of time to completely understand the formulas, had prevented that it got ready in time for the finals. After an invasion like this one, it was only logical that security would be upped. Most were just relieved that the losses hadn't been worse. Most injuries weren't bad enough to keep the ninjas at the hospital for more than a few hours to rest and recover at home. About 50 had to be treated a bit longer and stay for a week, but that was about the longest anybody had to stay there. The Godame Hokage had made sure that all medics went through some remedial training to ensure that they were ready for the expected attack. He also had already ordered to check children at the academy for aptitude for medical training. There had to be a lot of potential that could be exploited, and if they started early on, they could ensure that nearly all teams had a capable medic on them. A few craftsmen had been let into the village to help out with reparations. There were lots of houses that had taken damage and that needed to be repaired as soon as possible. The main workforce came with Tajuna from Wave Country. Thanks to the help the Godame's team had given the country some months ago, they had offered to help with the work for a discount rate. It had been happily accepted. The Genin teams were all given jobs to help with the rebuilding. It was a good chance to give positive PR to the ninja program. Many people were waiting for something else though. The announcement on the promotions from the Chunin exams. There had been more than enough fights to promote a good number of Genin to Chunin. It was 3 weeks after the invasion and Kakashi had called in the judges of the exams together with the advisors he had chosen. He had sent Koharu and Homura into retirement as he couldn't stand their condescending ways and had made Hiruzen Sarutobi and Tsunade Senju his new advisors. The reappearance of Tsunade had been a major surprise for most, but there were rumors that she had returned because of a lost bet. Truth was that during the month of training for the shortly after the exams, Jiraiya and Naruto had confronted Tsunade. She had been at the stadium thanks to planning on betting on the matches and after the finals taking Shizune back with her as she had trained Sakura. They had convinced her to stay in the village after Naruto had had a few very clear words about how she was whining like a brat about her losses. He had then let loose with the things he had lost and how he had suffered and that he still wasn't giving up. He would show people that they were dead wrong going against him and that she should stop living in the past, and instead finally face the present. She was after all nowhere as bad off as he was and others were. Sasuke had lost his whole clan to his brother, Kakashi had lost his parents, his teammates, and his sensei. Sarutobi had lost his wife and daughter, and there were countless others that had pulled though and gone on with their lives. It helped that she had had to overcome her fear of blood to save Shizune, who had helped defending the village in the invasion and had been cornered by 3 Suna Jonins. Shizune had taken out 2 of them and Tsunade had punched the 3rd of them through a house wall to save her apprentice. But during the fight Shizune had been hit in 2 critical points with a wind sword. One wound she had somewhat treated herself, but the second one had been too much for her with the loss of blood from the wounds. Tsunade had trembled a lot, but the thought of losing the one person she could call family after all her other losses had made her pull though and overcome that particular barrier in her mind. With a few additional concessions like being allowed to still travel for 2 months a year when things got too much inside the village and being given free rein over the setup for a medic-nin program with enough financial means to do it properly with a good salary on top, she had been convinced to come back. The fact that Naruto had bet her that he could hold up against her in a fight for 5 minutes when she went Jonin level had only helped with it. Now Tsunade had taken command over the hospital with Shizune as her assistant and was bringing them up to speed. She had also taken up the Senju seat, which gave the shinobi side of the council a lot more weight in decisions that concerned both parts of the council, few as there were left now that the Sandaime Hokage had cleaned up a lot of messes and the Godaime Hokage continued doing. The Sarutobi seat was filled by Asuma, the Sandaime's son, and Naruto had arranged that his father's seat, each Hokage got one for reaching the office that was hereditary for his clan after that, was proxied by Jiraiya or, if he was out of the village, Shizune for now. He didn't want to deal with the council sessions right now as he still needed to train more and he didn't like the politics certain council members used. So he had decided to wait until he was at least 16 to take up his seat, which none of the other shinobi council members had any problem with, thinking it a wise decision. Well, we're all here, Kakashi started the meeting, wearing the traditional Hokage robes. As you all know, we have to decide which of our genin we want to promote to the rank of Chunin. The exams have given us a good number of talented young shinobi to choose from. I think the best way is going by the order of their fights and discuss if the candidate has proven the qualification for the rank. That sounds logical, Shibuya Barame agreed. Thankfully for the Chunin promotions only the Shinobi Council and the judges for the exams were required, otherwise the civilians would have tried to make a nuisance of themselves. They had tried insisting that they had a right to decide as well, but Kakashi had shot that down, claiming a purely ninja-related decision. With that approach the first fight was the one between Sakura Haruno and Kiba Inyazuka. Let's start with my observations about Kiba. While he was clearly aware that he didn't have an easy opponent and was on guard, he needs to first overcome his weaknesses better. Those being his overly heightened senses and the dependence on his ninja dog partner. While both can also be strengths, if not protected they can be turned against him as Sakura proved well, Shikaku stated. He needs to work more on guarding his partner from surprise attacks like the poisoned needles that Sakura used. Otherwise he didn't get to show much and lost his temper after seeing his dog unconscious. He needs more time and training before being ready for being a Chunin. I have to agree with your observations. He needs more time, even if he might have some techniques, he couldn't show thanks to Sakura being very fast in using her strategy, Tsunade agreed. From the things I read in the reports of the response teams in the invasion, he did well in his given mission. So my suggestion is we put a positive recommendation into his file for his performance in the invasion, but don't promote him. The others all nodded, so no formal voting was required. Next would be Sakura and we have 2 fights to judge from next to her actions during the invasion, Kakashi said. I was very impressed with her strategy against Kiba. She knew about the weakness of her opponent and while it normally is seen as a strength, she turned it against him. And after having taken Kiba's dog out of the fight with a simple technique like poisoned senbons, she pressed her advantage and drugged Kiba without falling to her own plan. That's always a risk with young poison users, Shivi commented. True, she planned that fight properly and had the complete control from the start. That's very important for a Chunin, the Sandaime commented. It also showed in her second match against Shikamaru that she has a very sharp mind if she could outthink and trick Hinara. Yes, Shikamaru was operating on wrong information she let him believe. Not revealing all your tricks too early on is a very good tactic for a ninja and Chunin material. I definitely think she has the qualifications for the promotion, Hayashi Hayaga agreed. Anybody against Sakura's promotion? There were no raised hands. Any abstentions? No arms as well. Then we'll note that the first Chunin promotion for this year goes to Sakura Harano, Kakashi stated and wrote it down in her file with the number of votes like it was necessary. They continued with all the other fights of the first round and decided that Ino needed more time and wasn't ready for promotion, but that Hinata had shown great performance in both her fights, even showing off self-created jutsus based on her clan's taijutsu style, and deserved her promotion. The same held true for Sasuke with an additional positive commendation for his taking up leadership in the invasion and successfully protecting the academy. That made 3 promotions so far. Koji would get a positive recommendation for his part in the invasion and acknowledgement of not being able to take down an opponent far superior to his level, but it wasn't enough to promote him. Shino was praised for his strategy and skills in the fight against Naruto, who had clearly been the stronger of the two. Combined with his performance in protecting the academy, he was granted his promotion as well. It wouldn't make sense to leave him a genin. Especially as he had found a new way to use his clan's jutsu in combination with elemental jutsus. Naruto's comment was pushed to be discussed last as there were some things Kakashi wanted to add to his shown abilities in the exams. Shikamaru was judged positively for great strategy in both his fights and using unusual tactics to capture and force his opponents to submit. He wouldn't make the mistake of going by assumed information again after Sakura used that to drug him. He would be on the lookout for any kind of tricks, and he had done well in defending the hospital from the attackers. He was also promoted. Now our last candidate is Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, Kakashi said, and the clan heads listened intensively. His shown abilities in the finals, especially his capture of an enemy Jinchuriki for the village, go far beyond the level we look for in Archunin. True, I've never seen that level of Fuinjutsu. You were the one to train him during the preparation month, Jiraiya-sama, am I correct? Inoichi asked. Yes, I did train him, but that seal is completely his creation. I evaluated him as well as Dark Phoenix a few months ago, and both are seal masters. I know for a fact that they have worked together for some projects as well, for example the identification seal we used during the invasion to differentiate between friend and foe. Team 7 tested the seals during the second part of the Chunin exams to get an idea of their reach, and their results led us to use them for the Chunin and Jonin of Konoha during the invasion, and it made the fights a lot easier on our side, Jiraiya said. Naruto is a genius with Fuinjutsu, but being an Uzumaki that isn't that surprising. And his father was also fantastic with them. You could probably say the boy was born to excel in that art. There was some agreeing mumbling heard from others. Many knew of the reputation of the Uzumaki clan, and the Yondaime Hokage had been incredible with Fuinjutsu as well. Nonetheless, I don't think he has the experience to be promoted to Jonin yet, Choza mentioned. I have to agree, while he certainly has the skill, he's only been a ninja for a bit over 6 months. But just promoting him to Chunin wouldn't be enough, Shikaku added. He's far beyond that level and has been for months. Shikamaru had shared his observations with his father. And to say that Shikaku was impressed would be an understatement. Especially as he had managed to keep it a secret from everybody during his whole time at the academy. How about promoting him to Special Jonin with focus on Fuinjutsu and Ninjutsu? The Sandaime proposed. I've thought about this for a while, as Kakashi kept me informed about Naruto's level. We have a high number of newly promoted Chunin this year. In fact, of the 9 rookies that qualified for the finals, we only have 3 that didn't get promoted, a feat that hasn't been seen in any previous tournaments. With the invasion and the 2 Suna participants and their brother being captured, there won't be any promotions for them. At the moment Suna is in a massively bad position. We have all the trump cards in our hands. We could change the rookie teams a little bit around for the next 6 months. Kiba, Ino, and Koji could become a team, as their other teammates had been promoted already and will have to take other missions now. If those 3 continue developing like they did since their graduation, they should have good chance to get promoted the next Chunin exams. I also would like to take Sakura under my wing for a while. She got glowing reports from Shizun and she would make a great second apprentice as Shizun is good enough to train her own apprentices by now, Tsunade spoke up. With the next few months not being normal in any sense as we will have to recover from the invasion, it would make sense to teach her as much as possible right now before she goes on to new missions again. We also need most Jonin for other missions right now, so the training of the new Chunin and the remaining Genin would suffer anyway. Why not form the 4 remaining Chunin from that group into one squad and make Naruto the temporary leader of the 3 Genin for C-rank and B-rank missions? The idea has merit, Tsunade, Kakashi agreed. We could send the Chunin team on mostly B-rank missions and leading an advanced Genin team on missions and helping them with some training would be good for Naruto's development. With how many missions we have with considerable lesser manpower that would work. We can also let the new Chunin work with other Genin teams to get them used to leading missions. Of course we'd first start with C-ranks in those cases. We could rotate them around just by seeing which kind of mission it is. I think that would be a good solution. Are there any others that you'd recommend for medical training, Tsunade? Inoichi asked. I'm not sure yet. It would depend on who's interested in learning them. I'll initiate a program to get a medic nin onto each squad we have, but it'll take time to get there. From what I've seen, Hinata definitely has the chakra control needed and Ino with her basic knowledge of poisons could also be a candidate. I'll see if I can't coerce Naruto and Sasuke into at least basic classes. They would profit from that, even if so far Sakura took care of their injuries. Shino wouldn't be able to learn most techniques thanks to his symbiotic bond with his bugs that eat most of his chakra, and I don't know if Shikamaru would put in the effort needed. Tsunade listed those that could work out in some ways. True. You need to at least want to learn medical jutsus to become efficient in them as it takes a lot of time, Shikaku agreed. Another thing we need to consider is Tenten Jakonato. She performed really well during the invasion, even if her team didn't qualify for the finals. I think a positive recommendation that will grant her promotion next time around if she makes it into the finals of the Chunin exams and can then show that she has the skills would be advisable, Tsunade said. I agree, Kakashi said. Well, then Asuma, you can collect Shikamaru and tell Kurane to come with Shino and Hinata. I'll call my 3 students so we can promote them all at once. Meeting adjourned. Kakashi sat behind his desk with the Sandaime and Tsunade standing to his left and right. In front of the desk stood his team, Hinata, Shino, and Shikamaru. Kurane and Asuma stood behind their respective students. You've all been called here to be informed about your results in the Chunin exams and the invasion after it. Let me start with Sakura Harano, Sasuke Uchiha, Shino Abarame, Hinata Hyuga, and Shikamaru Nara. You 5 have all shown good tactical skills in your fights as well as a skill level that puts you above a normal Genin. It is my pleasure to promote each of you to Chunin, Kakashi said, and Tsunade and the Sandaime handed the vests and certificates over to them. All 5 had smiles on their faces and put their new vests on. Then all eyes rested on Naruto. Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. During the Chunin exams and following invasion you've shown exceptional skills and leadership qualities. You managed to capture Suna's Jinchuriki Kigara alive and showed great strategic and tactical abilities in all fights you were in. Thanks to your and Tenten Jakonato's performance while stalling the invaders to completely evacuate the civilians, we didn't suffer any casualties among the civilians. For your outstanding performance, you're hereby promoted to Special Jonin, Kakashi said and handed Naruto his vest and certificate. Naruto had a true happy smile on his face. Finally he got acknowledgement. Congratulations to all of you, Kakashi said once all of them had put their vests on and had taken the congratulations from their teachers. Now that you aren't Genin anymore, your Jonin senseis aren't responsible for your training anymore. It is up to you to improve your abilities, though your senseis will still be available for advice and simply talking about things. There'll also be some changes to your teams. The group of 6 listened intently. Tsunade stepped forward. As some of you may know, I'm going to completely rebuild the way medic nins are trained by the village. The final goal is to have enough medics that each team will have one when they take a mission outside of the village. For that reason, I wish to offer you all the possibility to at least learn some basic skills. Next to that, I would like to take you, Sakura, as my personal apprentice. You've shown great abilities in the area already, and Shizun has praised your intelligence and fast learning from your training under her over the month before the Chunin exam finals, Tsunade said. Really? I would be honored to learn under you, Tsunade-sama. Sakura exclaimed happily. Very good, then be at the hospital tomorrow morning at 8 to start your training. Just a warning, I'm a very strict teacher, Tsunade said. Sakura simply nodded. I'd like to get some medical training as well, Tsunade-sama, Hinata spoke up. But I don't know if my father will allow it. Don't worry, I'll convince him if he gives you trouble. I've wanted to get a Hyuga into the medical program for ages, but your clan always blocked. As I have complete freedom in my recruiting, which was one of the conditions Hokage-sama granted me upon my return and taking over of the program, I can choose whoever I want as long as they're willing to invest the time into the training, Tsunade stated and got a confirming nod by Kakashi. Then I'll gladly enter the program, Hinata said. Good, be at the hospital tomorrow at 9 as well, Tsunade informed her. Those without previous training will work under Shizun first, and if they show enough promise, I'll take over some lessons as well. Hinata nodded, smiling happily. I'm no good at medical techniques, I simply have too much chakra, even if my control is far better than my reserves would let you think. I'm good with basic first aid, Naruto said. I'm just not interested in medical jutsus, even if I know how useful it is from being treated by Sakura, Sasuke said. My goal is catching Itachi and forcing him to finally tell me the truth about the Uchiha massacre. Something doesn't add up there. I'll capture him and wring all information I need out of him. If it turns out he's just an arsehole, I'll kill him after that, if not, I'll hand him over to Konoha's justice. I need to become much stronger before I'd stand a chance against him though, and medical jutsus aren't the way for me to get there. Kakashi was surprised to hear his student's changed goal, but he was very happy about it. At least the probability of him running off to kill Itachi was lower now. Shikamaru and Shino also declined attending the medical program. Good, as you're perhaps aware, the village despite our preparation still lost a large number of ninjas. We still need to take as many missions as before, therefore the teams are being changed a little. Hinata, your starting training for the medical program will take about 2 weeks. For that time, you'll be excused from missions. Naruto, Shino, Shikamaru, and Sasuke, report for a B-rank mission tomorrow morning at 9. In 2 weeks when Hinata's initial training is over, Naruto, you'll move to taking command over the new genin team of Kiba and Yazuka, Ino Yamanaka, and Koji Akimichi. You'll be leading them in C-rank and low B-rank missions until Asuma Sarutobi isn't needed for constant higher-ranked missions anymore, Kakashi informed them. They all nodded. Except for Naruto, you're dismissed, Kakashi said. The 5 Chunin bowed and left the office, telling Naruto to meet them later at the barbecue place for celebrations, which he agreed to. Then he looked at his sensei curiously. Naruto, for the next year, you'll be given a high number of missions where you'll lead a genin or chunin team that consists of those around your age to get experience with leading teams. While you have the skill set of a full jonin, you lack the experience. Prove that you're ready then and you'll get the promotion to full jonin then. Contrary to new chunins, you'll also have some more duties to prepare for. Once you're back from the B-rank mission, you'll be trained in things like withstanding torture, spying in enemy territory, dealing with stress and loss of a member of your team and training of a team. Even if you get your promotion, you won't be given a green genin team to train until you're at least 16, Kakashi informed him. I understand, Sensei, Naruto confirmed. Good, I'll make sure you get the pamphlet with duties of Jonin after you return from your mission. Right now, none are left as the storage where they were kept was hit by a fire jutsu in the invasion and burned down. Printing new ones has a low priority right now. I also wanted to inform Tsunade-sama as my advisor of your unique position in the village, Kakashi said, and Naruto nodded, knowing that as one of the Sannin she had a right to know. Do you mean his Jinchuriki status? Tsunade asked. No, what I was talking about is that Naruto is the village's top seal master and also operated under the codename Dark Phoenix, Kakashi revealed. You're Dark Phoenix? Tsunade asked, surprised, and then chuckled. A great deception you pulled off there. Everybody thinks that we have two seal masters besides Jiraiya now. It will make others think more if they dare attack us. Seal masters are tricky to conquer. I can see why you'd keep his identity a secret. He'd be a major target should the truth be found out. Even more so than being known as Minato's son. The others just nodded. Naruto was then dismissed and went to join the other freshly promoted Chunin. That's it for this reading. Hit like and subscribe for a free ticket pass going to the different worlds of anime fanfictions. Looking forward to having you on board again.